Hey guys, it's Rob here and welcome back to another video. So it seems that Insider Gaming has a pretty interesting exclusive when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 launch plans, and we're going to talk about that today. If you guys end up enjoying this video, make sure you guys leave a like. It helps the video reach more viewers when you do that. And also, if you guys enjoy the content, make sure you subscribe for more Nintendo Switch news, leaks, rumors, and all that great stuff. So over at Insider Gaming, they have an article that reads as this: exclusive, Nintendo Switch 2 will have a 3-phase launch plan for its games. With Nintendo Switch 2 just 1 week from its official full reveal, this year's annual GDC was buzzing with talk around the future of the console. One such discussion was around the Nintendo Switch 2 launch date, which according to people that I spoke to at the event falls in June. Now, if you guys remember, there's a rumor going around that the Nintendo Switch 2 launch date is gonna be May. Now, that was a rumor, but this is someone from Inside Gaming and they're calling it an exclusive, and it seems that they are talking to people who apparently have some knowledge on the release date for the Nintendo Switch 2. So I am more inclined to believe them over just, some random person who says, hey, it's gonna be a May release date. But anyways, continuing. But that's not all. According to the various sources, the Nintendo Switch 2 will launch its games in a 3-phase strategy, starting primarily with first-party games on launch. Now that right there does make a lot of sense. I mean, we've already been seeing that from Nintendo already with that original Nintendo Switch 2 trailer. We saw Mario Kart showcased on the Nintendo Switch 2. Now we don't know if that's Mario Kart 9 or is it just Mario Kart 8. More than likely it's Mario Kart 9, that's what I'm leaning towards. Let me know what you guys think about that down in the comment section below. Do you think that was Mario Kart 9 or do you think it was Mario Kart 8? And then we also have Metroid Prime 4 that's supposed to be a 2025, or is a 2025 game I should say, it's already confirmed. So that could be just another game that's launched either for the launch of the Switch 2, or I could also see them launching it maybe a couple months down the line after the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2. And then of course you have all your third-party games and indie games and all that great stuff. And of course the games that are already announced for the Nintendo Switch 1, which we know the Switch 2 is going to be backwards compatible, so you'll be able to play those games as well. I think the Nintendo Switch is going to have a very good, not the Nintendo Switch, Nintendo Switch 2 is going to have a fantastic launch because of just not the new games, but also the fact that it's backwards compatible. I mean, let's say you could only buy one game and the Nintendo Switch 2. Well, you still have your back catalog, and a lot of us have a lot of games in our back catalog, let's all be honest. And plus there's games that are on sale, and just overall it's really fantastic that you can play those games on the Nintendo Switch 2 and have such a large library at launch when you buy a new system. But anyways, let's continue. According to sources, the second stage will arrive in October through November for third-party studios, most of which are expecting the dev kits for Switch 2 to be sent in June. Finally, it's said that the third phase for games will be in the holiday period. So the interesting thing about that second stage is October through November, that's kind of right after June, after we would get that June Nintendo Direct, and more than likely that's when a lot of third-party devs end up showing their Nintendo Switch games, Xbox games. There's games that go multi-platform essentially, third-party. Yes, there's a lot of big first-party games, but the majority of newer third-party games I've seen, the ones that get a lot of people excited, are usually during that June, what used to be E3 time. That's just depressing. So having this phase 2 in October or November, where a lot of these would probably launch before holiday season, just before Christmas, where everyone's spending more money, does make a lot of sense. And as for that third period, if you guys remember, we usually do get a September Nintendo Direct. Now, we don't know how Nintendo's gonna move during this Switch 2 era. They could very well change things. The reason why Nintendo Directs were so easily to predict before the Nintendo Switch 2 started really ramping up all the rumors, getting closer to the reveal and all that, is because Nintendo had a certain time that they would do a Nintendo Direct. September, February, they would have the June Nintendo Direct. The Pokemon Direct would always be on Pokemon Day. These things tend to be very easily discoverable when you look at the patterns of what they've done in the past. Not so much now with the Switch 2 in the mix, but before it was pretty easy. But anyways, continuing. In addition to the talk of the 3-phase launch plan, Insider Gaming has also learned that select media and creators will be attending the Switch 2 hands-on event next week, where they'll get hands on the console with some of its launch games for a few hours. That's pretty interesting, that specific word, some of the launch games. The big question here is, what are those launch games? Metroid Prime 4 might be one of those launch games. It's a 2025 game. Mario Kart 9 might be a launch game for the Nintendo Switch 2. It's also a potential launch game. I'm not going to call it a launch game because we don't know, and it's potential that even exists in the first place. We still don't know if that was Mario Kart 9. It looks to be Mario Kart 9 because there are a lot of different things about what we saw in that trailer compared to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, so we'll see what happens with that. But those are two potential games right now. But let's continue with the article. The Nintendo Switch 2 is scheduled to be fully revealed on April 2nd, so we expect more in-depth hardware coverage and perhaps some of its launch games too. A launch price alongside with the official release date is also expected to be announced during that event. And moving on to the next topic, I thought this would be pretty fun to talk about, especially when it comes to just older games getting a spruce up look, a fresh coat of paint, if you will. So this happened a couple of days ago. The title of this article reads, "New Nintendo patent is all about 2D visuals, but don't jump to any remake conclusions, as much as we want to see it." So the article reads as this: "There's nothing like a bit of patent discussion to get us Nintendo fans all excited. While the latest legal bagsy from the big N isn't quite as juicy as the potential hardware features we've seen in recent weeks, it does speak to the visual style that combines the world of 3D and 2D, and no, that doesn't necessarily mean HD 2D remakes are in the pipeline. Thanks Nintendo Wire." And then they talk about some gobbledygook stuff that probably we don't really care about. The main thing I want to talk about is later in the paragraph or article, and it says this: "This objective is achieved through a number of different steps, all which are wrapped up in the near incomprehensible legal speak that we've come to expect from the patents. From what we can make out, a new approach to shadows is the driving force behind this visual style, with the program capable of doing all sorts of fancy things with screen space ambient occlusion (SSAO) to render block shadows on background objects. This appears to ignore the distance between the character and the object it is casting the shadow on, forming an illusion where the 3D space is flattened but the impression of the depth is maintained. Not only the shadow but also the object itself can be rendered in a 2D manner." Now, there is some talk in the article that it isn't exactly an HD 2D type thing, but something more closer to the Paper Mario series, which I still think would be pretty cool. It does make me wonder what exactly Nintendo would use this for. Is it going to be just to give a little spruce up for some of these games? Is it going to be for remakes? Is it going to be just for a new IP, or maybe a future Paper Mario game? Maybe this is for a new Paper Mario game. That would actually be pretty cool, because if this is kind of like what we've seen in the Paper Mario series, maybe Nintendo is currently working on a new Paper Mario game. I mean, we've seen the success of the Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door, so maybe that was kind of like a test. A lot of companies do like to do that. They do like to bring back past games to test to see if there's any interest in another game in that series. So maybe on the Nintendo Switch 2, we will get a new Paper Mario game, which would be really cool. Or just maybe something similar. Maybe they'll try it with a different IP. That's something I've always liked Nintendo to do, is try like a Legend of Zelda, Paper Mario, or Paper Zelda, I guess you would say, game. I think that would be pretty cool. Or maybe Donkey Kong, or just some kind of IP that isn't Mario, just to see what it's like. Because a lot of games have tried that. A lot of developers who make their own game in the Paper Mario style have done that, and it does end up being really, really fantastic. So if they end up doing that with another IP, I think that would be pretty cool. Which, by the way, what game would you guys like to see in the Paper Mario style? Let me know down in the comment section below. And also, what do you think about the stuff that we covered in the first half of this video about Nintendo's launch plan? Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below as well. And I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.